We are hurtling toward the 2026 summer break right now, and you really need to understand that the driver market isn't just shifting, it is literally fracturing.
Oh, completely. It's tearing itself apart.
Yeah, we are looking at the paddock reality today, and everything points to one exploding situation. We are breaking down two interlocking seismic shocks on this deep dive.
Right.
Oscar Piastri is actively maneuvering to rip up his McLaren contract, and Max Verstappen is in the final phases of a blockbuster move to McLaren.
It's just insane.
It is. And this isn't just about who sits in what seat next year. This is about, championship survival. It's about toxic garage dynamics and a Red Bull divorce that is going to alter the grid for the next decade.
Well, hold on. I mean, I can't even let you finish setting the table without pointing out the staggering irony here.
Oh, the irony is thick.
Right. Because McLaren is at the absolute peak of the sport right now.
Yeah.
They have the dominant car, the technical high ground, literally the exact aerodynamic platform every team dreams of building.
Yeah, everyone wants that car.
But internally,
Yeah.
like behind all that smiling papaya PR, they are on the absolute brink of a civil war.
Exactly. So let's unpack this, starting with the Piastri situation, because this is the domino that triggers the entire sequence, right?
Yeah, the first pin to drop.
You hear the standard PR line from Oscar every single weekend. Oh, I have a contract. I'm happy with where I am. McLaren is happy with me.
Which is just textbook Formula One media training.
Exactly, textbook. But the reality we are looking at on the ground tells a totally different story. Piastri and his manager, Mark Webber, are just fundamentally unsatisfied.
Deeply unsatisfied.
Right. And they want out by the end of this season. They are actively preparing to trigger a performance-based release clause to just walk away.
Because look, Mark Webber knows exactly what he's looking at here. I mean, Webber lived through the Red Bull system alongside Vettel.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the multi-21 days.
Exactly. He knows exactly what it looks like when a team smiles at you, hands you a nice second-place trophy, while actively building the entire engineering infrastructure around the guy on the other side of the garage.
Right.
He is absolutely not going to let Piastri become the next victim of that kind of architecture.
And we know exactly when the trust shattered, too. It was the 2025 Italian Grand Prix. That was the absolute catalyst.
Those team orders.
Yeah, McLaren issued those brutal team orders, forcing Piastri to yield to Lando Norris. I mean, you could hear the total resignation in the radio transcripts.
You could see it in his body language in the debrief room, too. It was brutal.
Yeah. That wasn't just a strategic call for one Sunday. That was McLaren permanently labeling Oscar Piastri as a secondary asset.
Which is just a fatal blow to a driver of that caliber.
They looked at a generational talent and essentially told him, you are the supporting act.
Right, but
here's where I really have to throw a flag on this entire Webber strategy. I mean, I get the pride issue, I really do. But it seems like utter madness to walk away from a dominant championship-winning McLaren.
Well, is it though?
Yes. You do not voluntarily hand back the keys to the fastest car in Formula One just because your feelings were hurt in Monza. I mean, why would Webber engineer an exit from a guaranteed front-row lockout every weekend?
Because what good is the fastest car on the grid if the team's development structure actively prevents you from winning the title?
I mean, you're still winning races.
But if you are hard-coded into the system as the number 2, you are never going to be world champion. Never. You have to look at how Formula One cars are actually built. Updates are finite, right?
Right, the budget cap.
Exactly. When McLaren brings a new front wing, they only have one manufactured in time for Friday practice. Who gets it?
Lando.
Lando gets it.
Mm-hmm.
When the simulation team works overnight to find a setup window, whose driving style are they optimizing for?
Well, yeah, Lando's.
It's Lando's V-shaped cornering. It's not Oscar's momentum-carrying style.
So you're saying the car literally leaves him behind as the season goes on?
Physically and mechanically, yes. Just look at the history of the sport. Look at Pierre Gasly. Look at Alex Albon. Look at Checo Perez.
Oh, man, the Red Bull meat grinder.
Right. Red Bull gave them a championship caliber car, and it nearly destroyed all of their careers.
Yeah, that's fair.
Why? Because that car was engineered with an ultra-pointy, hyper-responsive front end that literally only Max Verstappen could handle. The rear end was incredibly loose.
Right, so if you didn't drive exactly like Max...
The car was basically undrivable. Gasly and Albon had to take massive steps backward, go into AlphaTauri, go into Williams, just to rebuild their market value.
But wait, McLaren isn't Red Bull. I mean, Zach Brown goes out of his way to project this big, happy family atmosphere.
The psychology is identical, though. It really is. If you stay in a dominant team as the designated number 2, your market value bleeds out. tenth by tenth, every single weekend.
That's a grim way to look at it, but yeah.
Piastri is young. He has terrifying potential. It is vastly better for his career trajectory to go to a slightly less competitive car.
Like the Audi project.
Like Audi, or even a rebuilding Red Bull. Somewhere where he is the undisputed leader, where the aerodynamicists ask him where they need more downforce.
Right, you go somewhere that puts you at the center of the development universe.
Exactly, rather than just rotting in Lando Norris's shadow at Woking.
Which is a massive gamble, obviously, but I see the mechanical logic. If you aren't the reference point, you're just a passenger.
It's a very well-paid passenger, but yes.
But here's the thing. McLaren can only afford to let Piastri's massive potential and his sponsor money walk out the door because they know they are about to inherit the biggest commercial juggernaut in the sport.
The ultimate prize.
Yeah. The only reason Piastri's escape plan is suddenly so viable is because Max Verstappen is creating a massive vacuum. Which brings us to the absolute technical meltdown happening right now at Milton Keynes.
Oh, it is a disaster. The fallout from the British Grand Prix was the point of no return for Max and Red Bull. It really was.
Totally.
It just laid bare everything structurally failing with that car. We really have to look at the reality of the RB22 EVO upgrade package.
Yeah, let's get into that.
It didn't just underperform. It was a catastrophic failure of correlation between the wind tunnel and the track.
Let's get into the weeds here because a lot of people just hear upgrade failed and they assume, they bolted on a bad wing or whatever.
Right, they think it's just drag.
But the fatal blow was the FIA's denial of Red Bull's ADU power unit system, the auxiliary deployment unit.
Yes, and we really need to understand what the ADU was actually doing, because it wasn't just about straight-line speed.
No, it was way more complex than that.
Think of the ADU like a digital anti-roll bar. Red Bull's aero package for the EVO was incredibly aggressive. It was generating immense peak downforce, but it made the car desperately unstable in low-speed corners.
Right, because the aero balance was shifting so violently.
Exactly. The car wanted to snap in to oversteer the literal second Max touched the throttle. So, to fix this, Red Bull used the ADU to intentionally limit electric power deployment to the rear wheels for microseconds.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
It essentially acted as an incredibly sophisticated, perfectly legal traction control.
So they used the hybrid engine to balance the aerodynamics.
Precisely. It smoothed out the power delivery so the aerodynamic platform wouldn't aggressively pitch and roll.
Wow.
So when the FIA banned the ADU, stating it breached the technical directive on power delivery, they didn't just lose engine deployment.
They lost the digital glue holding the entire car's aerodynamics together.
Yes. Max is now driving a car that is structurally compromised, and he knows for a fact that the wind tunnel data is lying to the engineers. The development pipeline is essentially dead in the water.
And that technical failure bled directly into the garage warfare at Silverstone.
Oh, the radio message.
I mean, this is the stuff in the paddock that genuinely shocks me. Max Verstappen, a guy who has literally carried this team on his back, who understands car dynamics better than almost anyone on the grid.
Unquestionably.
He realizes the setup is completely wrong. He realizes the power unit is failing. So he demands to start from the pit lane so they can break Parc Fermé rules and overhaul the suspension geometry.
A totally logical request, given the circumstances.
And what does the team do? They flat out ignore him. They send him to the grid.
They overruled their three-time world champion on a fundamental issue of drivability. It's unheard of.
But wait, I'm looking at the situation with Giampiero Lambias, GP, Max's race engineer, and this is where I really need you to explain this to me because I just don't understand the strategy here at all.
Yeah, the GP situation is wild.
GP has reportedly secured a move to McLaren. And because of that, Red Bull has cut GP out of the core engineering briefings.
Complete isolation.
Max is out on track trying to wrestle a literally broken car, communicating with an engineer who is being treated like a corporate spy by his own team.
It sounds crazy, I know.
Why would Red Bull intentionally blindfold their own star driver's engineer mid-season? How does that possibly help them win right now?
You have to look at this from the corporate perspective of intellectual property. Yes, obviously it hurts you this weekend on track.
Massively.
But Formula One is an arms race, right?
Yeah.
And information is the currency. Red Bull knows GP is leaving for Woking. They strongly suspect Max is leaving for Woking.
Right.
So if you are Christian Horner, you cannot have a guy who is actively packing his bags for your biggest rival, sitting in on meetings about your 2026 suspension geometry, or your floor edge Vortex generators.
Because he'll just carry that data straight to Zach Brown's desk.
Exactly. It's brutal, and it completely ruins the current race weekend, but it's pure self-preservation for the next era of regulations.
Wow.
But you're right about the human cost. The result is that Max feels entirely abandoned in that garage. He recently called the environments unhealthy.
Yeah, that was a huge red flag.
When Max Verstappen, a guy who usually speaks in pure lap times and setup changes, starts using HR terminology to describe his race team.
The divorce is already finalized in his head.
100%.
I mean, if you've ever worked at a company where the top salesman is allowed to scream at the CEO just because he brings in the most revenue, and then suddenly management starts locking him out of the server.
You know exactly what Red Bull is dealing with right now.
The trust is just gone. Which brings us to the contract chess match. And this is where the sheer ruthlessness of the Verstappen camp really comes into play.
Ah, yes. The famous exit clauses.
Right. We're looking at the realities of these performance benchmarks. Because here is the mechanical reality of F1 contracts. They aren't just based on vibes or handshakes.
No, they are ironclad.
There are hard mathematical performance clauses. And because of the absolute disaster with the RB22 EVO, Red Bull will mathematically fail to meet the required percentage of constructor points by the summer break.
Which is staggering.
It is. Which means, come October, Max's exit clause triggers, he can legally just walk.
He has them completely cornered.
He does. It's exactly like a driver intentionally backing up the pack under a safety car. Max is dictating the pace of the entire driver market right now.
Yeah.
Red Bull management has been begging him to sign a revised contract, trying to buy out those exit clauses, offering massive financial incentives just to close the door. And Max is just coasting.
He is stalling them out.
He refuses to commit. He is intentionally blocking management from rewriting his deal. And by doing so, he is the cork in the bottle, holding up Sainz, holding up Antonelli, literally everybody.
And that stalling tactic has triggered a massive high-stakes civil war at the very top of Red Bull's corporate ladder.
The boardroom stuff is fascinating.
It really is.
Yeah.
You have Mark Mateschitz, the heir to the Red Bull empire, who is reportedly furious right now. He looks at Max's refusal to commit as a fundamental betrayal of loyalty after everything the brand has invested in him since he was a teenager.
Yeah, they basically raced him.
Exactly. Mateschitz wants to cut ties immediately. He wants to say, if you don't want to be here, get out. We will build around someone else.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Oliver Mintzlaff, the CEO of corporate projects, is running around the paddock with a fire extinguisher, desperately trying to mediate, trying to save the sponsors who are threatening to walk if Max leaves.
Because Mintzlaff knows the stock price takes a massive hit the second Max puts on a papaya shirt.
Of course he does. But honestly, I think Mateschitz actually has the right idea.
Wait. You think Red Bull should just let him go? Just open the door for Max Verstappen to go to your direct rival?
Yes. I think Red Bull needs to lose Max Verstappen.
That is insane.
Hear me out. Max has become the aerodynamic dirty air of Red Bull. He's incredibly fast out front, obviously, yes. But his presence, his demands, and the political weight of his camp create such a turbulent, toxic wake inside the garage that no other engineer or driver can find grip.
I mean, they did build the whole team around him.
And they have mortgaged their entire culture to appease one driver. The technical team is completely disintegrated. Adrian Newey is gone. GP is leaving. You cannot build a sustainable organization when everyone is terrified of the lead driver.
Where he wins.
They need him out just to get clean air back into the organization. Losing Max forces them to reset the power dynamics and rebuild a healthy racing team from the ground up.
Are you out of your mind? You never willingly let your star weapon walk? Rebuilding a quote-unquote healthy environment doesn't win you Constructors' Championships.
It wins you longevity.
Max Verstappen wins you championships. If you have a driver who can put a fundamentally broken, unstable car on the podium through sheer force of will, you endure the toxicity.
I completely disagree.
You fire whoever you have to fire, you pay whatever you have to pay, but you do absolutely not hand him over to Zach Brown on a silver platter.
But you can't chain him to the steering wheel. Max Verstappen doesn't want to be there anymore. He's checked out.
Ugh, I hate that you're probably right about that part.
Which is exactly why the end game we are staring at, the reality hiding in plain sight right now, is the Verstappen-McLaren super team.
Yeah, it's really happening.
This isn't just a negotiation tactic anymore. Jos Verstappen shopped Max to everyone. He talked to Mercedes, he evaluated Ferrari, he looked at the Audi timeline. But McLaren is the ultimate inevitable destination.
So let's break down the mechanics of why McLaren is the masterstroke here, because strategically, the alignment is just terrifying for the rest of the grid.
It's the perfect storm.
First, McLaren has the financial muscle to afford Max's astronomical salary demands, largely because of the insane commercial sponsor portfolio Zak Brown has aggressively built over the last 5 years.
Zak has essentially printed money for that team.
Second, they have the Mercedes power unit, which, paddock consensus widely agrees is the superior package heading into the new 2026 engine regulations.
Oh, for sure. Mercedes figured out the hybrid split better than anyone in 2014, and literally all the data suggests they're doing it again for 2026.
Right. And crucially, the final piece of the puzzle here, they have Jean-Pierre Limbiès already in place in Woking.
And that is the linchpin. That is exactly why this deal works. Zak Brown didn't just buy a race engineer. He bought Max's operational comfort zone.
That's a great way to put it.
When Max walks into the Woking Technology Center next year, he doesn't have to spend 6 months learning a new communication style or teaching a new engineer how he likes the differential set on corner entry.
GP already knows.
GP is already there. GP is setting up the garage, optimizing the data protocols, and making sure the simulation tools speak Max's language from day one. It is an instantly familiar environment inside a vastly superior car.
And just think about the commercial magnitude of this. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen in the exact same papaya garage.
The marketing guys are salivating.
From a marketing perspective, it is an advertiser's absolute dream. You have the two most marketable, high-engagement drivers on the grid under one roof. The sponsorship dollars will be astronomical.
Well, undoubtedly.
But from a sporting perspective, from the perspective of actually running a race team on a Sunday afternoon, it could be a complete nightmare.
We are talking about Senna and Prost in 1989. That is the only historical parallel that does this justice.
Yeah, the Suzuka chicane all over again.
Exactly. You are putting two drivers who fundamentally believe they are the fastest man alive into the exact same machinery. But it's honestly worse than just ego. It's driving style.
Right, going back to what we talked about with Piastri.
We talked earlier about how McLaren builds a car for Lando's smooth V-shaped cornering. But Max demands a hyper-pointy front end that borders on oversteer.
They are total opposites.
How do the aerodynamicists design a front wing that satisfies both of them? They literally can't.
Someone is going to have to compromise.
And neither of them will. McLaren might dominate the decade on pure pace. They might win 20 races a year. But they're going to tear each other apart in the process.
You really think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Max does not play the team game. We've seen it time and time again. He will not yield. And Lando has spent years bleeding for McLaren, building this entire team around himself.
He's the golden boy.
He feels he has earned the right to be the number one. When they get to turn one on lap 1 in Melbourne and they are fighting for a world championship, Lando is not going to lift. And Max would literally rather crash them both out than concede the apex.
Wow. So this brings us to the ultimate question for you, the listener, and this is what you really need to think about before the summer break.
The big picture.
We've talked a lot today about alphas and number twos, but think about the cascading consequence of this. If Zak Brown actually pulls this off,
And he might.
if Max goes to McLaren and Piastri takes his talents to a rebuilding Audi to be their lead guy, we aren't just looking at a driver swap here.
No, we're looking at a complete paradigm shift.
Exactly. We might be looking at the permanent death of the number one and number two driver dynamic in Formula One.
It really could be the end of an era.
For decades, the formula for winning has been one superstar and one compliant wingman. Schumacher and Barrichello, Hamilton and Bottas, Vax and Perez.
The proven formula.
But if McLaren fields Verstappen and Norris, and Ferrari fields Hamilton and Leclerc, every single top team might suddenly be forced into fielding a two-alpha lineup just to survive the constructors' fight.
Because you can't leave points on the table anymore.
Exactly. The era of the safe, reliable number two might be over forever. Every garage on the grid could become an absolute war zone.
And honestly, as a fan of the sport, I am entirely here for the chaos. Let them fight. But before Zak Brown tries to negotiate a buyout for your podcast feed, you really need to hit that follow button.
Seriously, do not blink right now. This grid is shifting by the hour, the dominoes are falling in real time, and the telemetry drops are coming in fast.
It's moving so fast.
If you want to survive this silly season and actually understand the mechanical realities of what is happening behind the PR statements, you need to subscribe to Paddock Notes on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok right now.
We're tracking every exit clause, every suspension upgrade, and every paddock war. so you don't have to.
Don't get left in the dirty air. Hit subscribe, drop a comment on whether you think Max and Lando will actually survive turn 1, and we'll see you in the paddock.